Hello, ladies and gentlemen of the internet. Welcome back to the MOVIEVERSE podcast show, where we review films that we've seen recently in a spoiler-tastic, elaborate podcast fashion. So, spoiler alert, heads up right now. Today we're talking about Marvel's The Avengers: Age of Ultron. My name is the Habitual Pixel, my co-host, Big Nasty Productions, and we love ourselves some Marvel films. So, today we're going to talk about the latest and supposedly greatest film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The 11th film, I believe. The 11th film. Yes, where would you like to begin on this? Probably the biggest film of the summer, in most people's minds.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, realistically, I guess we could start on the whether or not it lives up to the hype from the first one or not.
Mm-hmm. Sure. We all remember the Avengers in 2012, was it? I believe that summer it came up. That we were all hyped up. We had never seen it before in cinema. They had like 6-7 films leading up to the Avengers, and the spectacle of them all getting together on screen after so many years of teasing and waiting and setting things up was pretty awesome. And the Avengers still remains one of my favorite movies of all, like probably all time, just because it's it's fun and it's a very good blockbuster. And this film, I think, lives up to most of the hype surrounding it. I don't think it's a perfect film by any means, but
No,
it definitely rivals how much fun the original Avengers are. It's just the spectacle of seeing this for the first time may have worn off for most people, but as a fan of superhero films, period, just as hero films go, definitely stands amongst the top. It's Joss Whedon bringing his A game again. It's I just feel some people are gonna feel like this has been done before.
yeah, and I can understand that. I mean, in the first one of the best things, like you were saying before, is the fact that you were seeing the characters from all the different movies that they were making actually come together, like they were teasing at the end of each film.
Mm-hmm.
So, a little bit of that charm, I mean, I guess is lost just because you're kind of used to it now.
And they've been teasing all the way up to this one as well.
Yeah, exactly. And so, I mean, I can understand if people are just a little bit not as taken back by the fact that they're able to achieve this on screen. I do think that they actually took it a step further in the action sequences where it involved all of the Avengers, as well as when it involved the villain Ultron and his little minions. I thought the action scenes were definitely kicked up a notch. But I do think they lost a little bit as far as the developing of the story. Mm-hmm. There's a little bit of jumping just back and forth where it was, I mean, especially with Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, right?
Mm-hmm.
Automatically you just go from bad guy to good guy within, I think that was within like a 2-minute span. Not even.
Yeah. It's
probably about 10 minutes of the film, but still.
No, you're right. And some things did feel rushed in this story. I feel like, especially the latter half of the film, I guess, where they very quickly had to set up things like the Vision's appearance and
yep. I didn't like the fact that they couldn't have more of the Vision.
Thor's cave Vision scene thing that some people might not have really understood, but it seems like it was trimmed up a little too much at the end. That's why I'm excited for maybe a director's cut or some longer version, perhaps on Blu-ray, because I think there's a few scenes missing when it comes to character development. But you're right, all the action stuff is arguably better than it was in the first film. All the teamwork, the spectacle of seeing all these guys on screen, that's all still here. And Joss Whedon's trademark dialogue and humor is also still here. So there's really nothing to dislike about this film. It's just, compared to the first, it's not going to be quite as impressive, I guess.
Well, and now considering the fact that Joss Whedon and Marvel have separated the ties that bond, if you will.
Unfortunately, yes.
I don't understand. Like, I understand the fact, like, Joe Russo and Anthony Russo did a great job with Captain America Winter Soldier. They definitely knocked it out of the park, considering what a bit of a dud Captain America the First Avenger was, realistically, if you look back on it.
It was.
But, I mean, with with the fact that Joss Whedon did both the Avengers and Avengers Age of Ultron, which I feel like you're right, Avengers Age of Ultron was just kind of crammed. It just felt really kind of jammed together.
Mm-hmm.
Where I don't understand how they're going to take over Infinity Wars without Joss Whedon at least writing the story. That's because that's kind of where I think some of the key essence of the heart of the film with the dialogue, as far as the relationships and things like that go with the banner. I think that's a lot where a lot of that comes from, is from Joss Whedon himself, just being the fact that he
wrote
he's
it
a
himself.
fan of comics and he
Yeah.
writes a lot of comic books.
Yeah, and he wrote this movie himself, and wrote and directed, which you don't ever really see on blockbusters like this.
Not too often. I mean, George Miller did it with Mad Max, but
Yeah. No, you can definitely write and direct if you got the chops for it. Joss definitely does. And what he does best, besides his, his skill for humor and his definite skill for action, which he's proved, several times over now. But what he does well, and even in this movie, even though it struggles a bit just because of so many characters and so much going on, but he juggles all these characters well, and he makes it feel like an ensemble film rather than, Iron Man, the movie featuring, Hulk and Captain America. You could, one of these dudes could have easily stole the show back in the Avengers, but he knows how to make it a group movie really well. And he does that here too. It's just the group has gotten so big and so elaborate that, it kind of buckles under its own weight a little bit. But.
No, I understand what you mean, and you're right, because even with the first one, he does a great job of combining almost the styles even of how the films are shot.
You were talking about that the other day, and I agree that he captures some of the Jon Favreau style from the first few Iron Mans, and a little bit of Captain America's crazy athletics and stuff from Winter Soldier and stuff. He puts into this one. He's very good at what he does, man.
He has a great eye for detail when it comes to something like comic book films, just because he's so embedded inside of the medium itself, outside of film, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the biggest reasons I think Marvel just is absolutely destroying DC as far as the films go.
The film franchise, oh yeah. You can't argue they're crushing them. And like I said, this is either the 11th or 12th film in the MCU, which is the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I think Ant-Man will be the final one in Phase 2, they're calling it. And then Phase 3 will start, and it'll lead up to the next Avengers in 2018, I think it is. And,
I think it's two parts, 2018 and
2019, yes. The Infinity Wars, Part 1 and 2. And, it's easy to say that the Avengers are definitely the highlights of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. That's for sure. I think everyone, even though they are steadily getting better for the most part, with a few mishaps here and there, but the Avengers are definitely the set pieces of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and I hope they can replicate it again with Infinity Wars, and I hope that all the steam that they're building up with the MCU doesn't wear off before they get a chance to finish this vision they're working on, which is almost a 20-year plan, which is crazy. Do you think that this stands out as the best set piece of the MCU so far?
I'd say if you're talking in terms of singular franchises, separating it by Avengers, Captain America, Hulk, for instance, or Thor, whatnot, what have you, Iron Man. Yeah, definitely. I'd say Avengers stands out above the rest, mostly because of the fact that, with Captain America, first one's kind of dull. The second one's absolutely awesome, brilliant. The first one for Iron Man's good. Second one, third one are just terrible. Yep. Thor, first one's kind of good. Second one's kind of eh. Mm-hmm. So, you know what I mean? I with Avengers, the first one is absolutely amazing. I mean,
yeah,
just look at the numbers. It's number 2 or 3 highest grossing films of all time or something like that.
The first one, yeah, and this even Ultron, only been out for a month or two now, is on the top 10 highest grossing films of all time already.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at that and then you look at this, and it's like you said, it's very similar in the way that they have the characters come together. The action sequences are better. I do feel like it is a little more crammed together, but Ultron, I think, is a great villain. James Spader does a great job voicing him.
I don't want anyone to misjudge us and say we're disliking the movie. This is this is a damn fine film.
I'm just saying in comparison to the original.
Yeah, exactly. This is the kind of movie that nitpickers love, like us. We like to look at everything that went wrong or could have been or what have you. But there's still a great film with great characters under all this, and it's damn fun. If you like the first Avengers, you're gonna love this. Yeah, we can talk about some characters and definitely talk about Spader because he added a lot to this, I think.
I thought so too.
Yeah, well, let's start with him because we all know the rest of the cast. You've seen him before. You got Robert Downey as Mr. Stark, Chris Hemsworth as Thor, Ruffalo as Hulk, Chris Evans as Captain America, Scarlet Joe as the Black Widow, Jeremy Renner is back as Hawkeye, Don Cheadle makes stops by to play Rhodey. We got the two new additions that we'll get to, Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch.
Don Cheadle, I feel in Avengers: Age of Ultron, kind of proves why War Machine will never have a large role in another film because he has the charisma of a wet cloth. I mean,
they pretty much make a joke about that.
I guess when he makes his joke, and they're just like, "Is that it?"
It's like, yeah, man, it's a War Machine. So, it's very good then. I love that stuff. There's a bunch of cameos from the MCU. There's like Peggy Carter from Agent Carter. Idris Elba reprising his Thor role. But yeah, and of course, Nick Fury is back. He wouldn't stay dead like in Winters. He supposedly his character died, if you will. But yeah, let's start with Spader as Ultron. The center of this film, Age of Ultron. I loved him. I thought he may even be better than Loki. I think maybe. I'm not sure. I'm still undecided. We'll have to see how it ages. But what do you think of Ultron?
The first appearance of Ultron is in Avengers number 54, and the first time you see him is in a panel where he's sitting in kind of like a chair, almost as if it's like a throne. Similar to how he does in the film. And the second that I saw that, the second that I saw that where it was even kind of similar and closely related to that, I'm completely sold. In my opinion, that's one of the best villain choices, especially the way that Spader voiced him and the dialogue that they gave him. I thought was very, very fresh for a villain, and he pulled it off. He pulled it off brilliantly. I mean, I don't know if he do any like motion capture.
Yeah,
stuff with it.
I think he did, yeah, a little bit.
Oh, okay.
But he also said he had trouble doing that because he was playing an 8-foot-tall killer robot. And,
that makes sense. I feel like that would be a little bit difficult.
Anyone who has seen James, he's not that, but he certainly has a voice that embodies it. I loved Ultron, absolutely. I thought it was a great. As I'm sure those of you who have seen the film or the trailers, you can put together that Ultron is an AI, a sentient AI created by, amongst other things, Loki's staff, Bruce Banner, and Tony Stark kind of have this hodgepodge experiment that creates this sentient alien AI of sorts, better known as Ultron. And it would be so easy to just make him like all humans must die, like sound like a computer program, like I don't know, HAL 9000 or something. It'd be so easy to just make, you know what I mean, like an the all-seeing computer threat. But no, they give him a whole bunch of personality, and he's as cunning and devious as he is, he's also like scared and doesn't exactly know what he's doing. And he's totally 100% committed to killing, all of mankind. Why? Because he logged onto the internet, basically.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, he logs onto the internet and be like, as all, super computers do, they're like, oh, humans are fucked. No, I can't allow this. And thus he hatches his plan to restart basically cause an extinction event for humankind.
So he can evolve.
Yes. There's a lot. He throws in, great dialogue all around for Ultron, but I love his little religious references and stuff like that. So much fun. This is a great villain, and I think it definitely stands up to the best villains of the Marvel Universe, including Loki, who everyone loves, me included.
I would almost say that he's a little bit better than Loki, mostly because of the
He's
fact
more
that,
entertaining. Oh,
yeah, and with Loki's reoccurring role, it gets a little stale. But I would say that Ultron so far, aside from just because they're teasing me so much, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like when you're at a strip club, like the stripper's not actually that good looking. It's just the only reason you think that is because you're only getting teased a bit.
Mm-hmm.
So Thanos is where I just kind of don't know what to expect.
Yeah.
Thanos is my cinnamon.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Aside from that, I would say that Ultron so far is definitely easily the best villain that they've had to date.
Yeah, I
don't know who else could really top it. I mean, if we're including the Incredible Hulk, which obviously didn't star Mark Ruffalo but had Edward Norton in it, I did like Abomination. I thought that was well done. But
Abomination was cool. I thought Red Skull was,
Red Skull. Hugo Weaving did a great job as Red Skull.
Yeah, Hugo Weaving's a great bad guy no matter what. But yeah, no, I'd have to probably agree with you that Ultron and the charisma that Spader brings to the role is awesome because he's got a sense of humor, he's got he's got personality, a bit of an ego. Doesn't like to be compared to Tony Stark, for example.
Yeah, I love that part, and he's the one that cuts off Ulysses Claw's arm.
Yeah,
because Ulysses Claw is gonna actually have
Black Panther villain, right?
Yeah,
yeah. Who is played by Sonic Ray on it. Played by Andy Serkis, which is cool. I'm looking forward to that, just purely because of Andy Serkis. But
yeah,
he's a great villain, and you believe all the power that he has. Like this is 2015, I guess, and the supervillain is using the cloud. He's everywhere. He does destroy one, and just like Hydra, 2 more pop up. And he keeps building new versions of himself, and it's a perfect excuse to have the Avengers fight a big-ass army of robots. I loved it.
See, the only quarrel I kind of have with it as far as story-wise goes is the fact that it really, at the end, kind of is completely unnecessary, especially as far as the MCU goes, because, I mean, realistically, the whole thing just builds up to a preview of Thanos going, fine, I'll do it myself.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like, okay, so none of this mattered?
Yeah, well, I was thinking about that also, because Thanos has only been teased in like 3 or 4 movies now. But we finally see him thrown on the gauntlet, and Thor, specifically talks about who is moving the pieces of, the Infinity Gems and working his magic, which we all know is Thanos. But yeah, you're right. He just keeps on teasing, and I don't know if it's gonna pay off. Is he gonna be the best villain of all the movies? Because that's kind of what they're counting on.
That's what I mean. They're putting a lot of eggs in a basket that doesn't come out for another what? 4 or 3 and 4 years.
3 years and 4 years. Yeah.
Hmm.
You're exactly right. They are jamming an awful lot of eggs in that basket. And the Marvel, it's no secret now, the Marvel MCU is a bit ridiculous as it is. I mean, it's awesome. I've loved it, and I'm going to continue to love it because through the next, the next 5 to 10 years that they keep releasing these movies. But
I'll go see every single thing.
Yeah, of course, because they're great. They're just fun for the most part, but they have 22 movies, I believe, planned, and we're on 11 or 12 now, so we're halfway through.
22.
We're halfway through the Marvel Cinematic grand plan that they have, and that's who knows what they'll do afterwards, right? They just recently got Spidey, so who knows? There's all this. The MCU is crazy. Do you think it's going to eventually collapse one day? Or do you think this is?
I think it's a possibility. I mean, name one film franchise that
has lasted, right?
Or even subgenre that really gets this much of a boom and then can sustain it for that long of a period.
Yeah.
But you really don't see it that often. I mean, for instance, even even if you take slasher films with like as far as subgenres of horror go, right? When slasher films started, yeah, there was a big boom where they were, every single one that was coming out, people were going to see and stuff like that. But that died off within about 10 years, right?
Mm-hmm. And yeah,
because then when you go from obviously there were some ones that started in late 70s and stuff like that, but when you go from 80s, like where it's that's a lot of them are coming out, and then back up to the 90s when even more of them are coming out and they're just awful and nobody's paying attention to them. Yeah, I feel like it's a possibility it could be the same thing, except for the fact that obviously these aren't horror films, these aren't slasher films, these are very, very large budget, big box office, extravaganzas, if you will. So I do feel that there's definitely the possibility for interest to kind of fall off. Mm-hmm. But not quality, certainly. I don't think that.
I don't think the quality will stop.
I don't think the quality will stop at all. But I do think that there is a chance interest could fall off, just because it's such a long time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what I mean. I don't see it stopping. But superhero movies they're nothing new, right? But they have had what I'd like to call a dark period, if you will, the dark ages of superhero films, where there was some real shit ones, especially in the late '90s and. Even into the early 2000s a little bit.
Nipples and cod pieces?
Yeah, nipples and cod pieces. Certain, Daredevil comes to mind, Spider-Man 3.
Oh, okay, calm down. Daredevil isn't that bad. Now hear me out. There's a lot of stuff in it that's pretty close to the Frank Miller Daredevil, which is, in my opinion, the best Daredevil. And also, there's... Bullseye, Colin Farrell actually did a pretty good job.
I did kind of like him as Bullseye.
Aside from that, you're right. It's absolutely awful.
Yeah, there's plenty of not good in these films. This is what I'm getting at. But the Marvel MCU...
I had to defend it a little bit.
That's sorry. That's fine. That's okay. Ben Affleck appreciates it. He's fuck it. I'm Batman now. I don't give a fuck. What was my point? Yeah, the MCU kind of revolutionized things and cranked it up to 11. The first Iron Man's still one of my favorites of the whole thing, and that's what kicked the ball rolling. And they've had some pretty major mishaps with recasting of the Hulk. Some people say it's a mishap. I think
Mark Ruffalo's.
Yeah, I think it's for the better, actually. Yeah. Of course, War Machine changed characters, but everyone's forgotten about that. Little things like that. Not to
War Machine's been terrible either way. They just don't write him in well.
Yeah, it's funny because Don Cheadle's not a bad actor. He's just not right.
Oh God, no! Don Cheadle's a great actor.
He's just not right for this role. I don't think.
Terrence Howard's not a bad actor either.
No, I didn't think so. I thought he was actually pretty good as Rhodey, but who knows? They clearly had some problems. What I'm getting at is that there's been missteps in the MCU big time. But I think for the most part they've been great, and they've made just inhuman amounts of money, and that's really what's going to keep it going, right? So I think they're fine at least till they finish up this Infinity War arc that they're going for. And I think if they end that, as a whole, maybe that would be a good time to, quit while you're ahead, maybe. I'm not sure. We'll see what happens, but I think this is continuing in the right direction, especially on the heels of Winter Soldier. Yeah, I think this and Winter Soldier and Guardians of the Galaxy, come to think of it, those were three of the best. If they keep that going, then I will, I'll happily continue to pay ridiculous IMAX ticket prices.
Yeah, it definitely seems like it's an upward trend. And like we were saying, there's really nobody in the cast that I think that Scarlett Johansson kind of upped her game, to be perfectly honest, in this one. Same with not so much Jeremy Renner, and I don't feel like it's Jeremy Renner's fault. Hawkeye's kind of like a boring character.
I think they tried harder with him this movie.
They did,
and I liked it.
There's not much you can do.
I think he had one of the best speeches in the whole film.
But you know what I mean? He's basically just like a shield agent with a bow and arrows. Cool.
Yeah, he's just a badass dude.
You just seem to prefer a weird weapon for some reason.
It doesn't make sense. Even he admits it. But his superpower is kind of revealed in this film, if you will. I'm using air quotes for those who are listening. His superpower is that he is just a regular guy. He's a human. He's got a family, a wife, kids. He's got...
That's not a superpower, but sure.
No, it's something to, I don't know, humble the rest of them, kind of, because the rest of them live these, more or less, these full-time, ridiculous lives of being superheroes. And I don't know. That's what they.
He does it while trying to raise kids.
Yeah. That's kind of what I think they were getting at. Is like his superpower is, he's just
his family.
He's just a regular dude.
His superpower is love.
Yeah, sure. And the superpower is love and explosive tipped arrows. Yeah, I think he honestly had one of the best speeches, and I could have done without his family stuff. I think there was another way to bring back Nick Fury, all that crap.
Well, that's why I was reading about it, and Joss Whedon apparently said that it was that. Like, I don't know if he had to cut the whole scene for that, for the farmhouse, but apparently he had to shorten the Thor scene in the cave because of the farmhouse and somehow keeping that. I really kind of wish he would have just cut that and extended the Thor scene in the cave, because I don't really understand what kind of happened.
Me neither. I'm sure that scientist could explain it if he had more than 30 seconds of screen time.
That's the other thing I kind of didn't really like, is the fact that they have all these little 10 to 15 second cameos like Falcon and Rhodey.
Which is fine. It sells the universe.
Rhodey was a little bit longer.
Yeah. It's their attempt to continue to sell this universe, and it's
sure.
what MCU movies have to do now. They've, depending on how you look at it, they've worked themselves into a corner that no matter what film they're doing, they must, acknowledge the previous and set up the next. And I think they did it well in this film. It didn't drag for too much. Like I said, they kind of packed a lot in at the end, but at the beginning, it's just, Falcon stops by. He's like, yeah, working on a missing persons report, and that's all that's said. Talking about the Winter Soldier, And just little hints to what has happened. And, of course, S.H.I.E.L.D. is gone now, and he calls, various S.H.I.E.L.D. agents unemployed. And at the end, it set up things like the Vision. There was the Black Panther, the Claw, sorry. They set up little things like that, but...
Well, they do mention Wakanda. They don't go to it. They go to, I think it's, what is it, Jonestown in South Africa?
Yeah.
Charlestown? I don't know what it's called.
The Scar was from Wakanda, yeah. Which is where the Black Panther resides, if those who do not know. So they're hinting at the Black Panther. They haven't really hinted at Strange yet, besides that one line in Winter Soldier. But they've, for better or for worse, they have to continue to establish this universe they've worked so hard on. And I think that's fine in this film. They did it smart for the most part.
It's a great extension of the Avengers franchise, but I don't know.
I will say Iron Man 2 did it not smart. If you want
it was terrible.
If you want a comparison, that's what.
Well, but I mean, seriously, I honestly do think it's a great expansion, continuation of the story, and as far as the franchise goes, especially
it seems like a good episode setting up for a great episode kind of thing.
But the only problem with that is the fact that, I don't know, I can't get past the fact that there's a lot of things they just kind of throw in there real quick. Just it seems like they're almost just trying to jam pack it in to make sure that it's all set up for the next one. I wish they spent more time with Ultron, too. Just because I feel Ultron's a much more significant character in the comic books. But that's just me being a nitpicker as far as that medium goes. As far as the film goes, honestly, it's not better than the first one, but it's highly entertaining. And the only complaint I would have about it is the fact that it's not long enough.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And some people, they forced poor Joss, probably, maybe why he eventually cut ties with Marvel. But they forced him to cut it down from 3 hours to 2 and a bit, and which some people think 2 hours is long for a film. But like, if the pace of the ending of this film had a great pace, I thought. So if they just would have slipped it in the right way, it would have been fine. You're right. Yeah, they try and fit a little of too many stories into the end there, and I would have liked a little bit more. Much. Yeah, would have liked a little bit more of a, relax a second and explain some things. Give me an extra an extra Ultron monologue or two. I would have loved that. I don't know. You're right though. It's great, but it's a little falls a little bit short of the first one. Still easily my top 5 at Marvel films so far.
Oh, yeah, I would say easily it's the first Avengers, Age of Ultron, then Winter Soldier.
Mm-hmm.
I can see why some people might not, especially if you don't really know who Scarlet Witch is or Quicksilver, or
that's another thing I could point out as a bit of a nitpicking negative. Is it pretty much assumes you've watched all the other films, and especially the first Avengers, which I'm sure most of you have, and that's not a big deal. But there might be some younger viewers out there, or who knows, right, that don't know who Hydra is and don't know, where did this scepter come from and all this kind of stuff. And it assumes you've seen the whole franchise so far, which, I mean, you should. That's kind of the point of these films, but that could be looked at as a negative, is that they assume a lot of previous viewing.
At least with Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver, because...
And that one even assumes a little bit of comic book reading, too. Right?
Yeah, that's what I mean, because if you go that route, it doesn't really make sense, because they're supposed to be Magneto's kids, but... Anyways, and it kind of just doesn't make sense how, all you've seen before this film is a glimpse of them saying the twins.
I'd like to know how they got their damn powers out of that scepter, right?
That's what I mean. I wish there was a little bit more to it than that.
It
just felt rushed. It feels rushed to me, and it feels kind of like a little bit of lazy writing in that regard. Mm-hmm. But other than that, I really see nothing wrong with it. I mean, obviously, like we said, the action scenes are better. Performances, some are better, some are just the same. And, I mean, that's fine because they were great in the original.
No one's bad in this film by any means.
Yeah, the sound's still great. Dialogue's still great. It's absolutely hilarious. A
lot of humor. More humor than I expected, even though I knew it would be funny. It was like especially the first half of this film, you were laughing your ass off, even at the weird, devious things that Ultron says.
I like the relationship thing with Bruce Banner, like Mark Ruffalo's character, and Scarlett Johansson's character, Black Widow. I liked
that didn't bother me. Some people complain that was shoehorned in, and I'm like, no, I didn't really feel it was shoehorned in. They didn't dwell on it for too long. It also made a lot of sense. Like, someone needs to be able to keep fucking Hulk under control, and who better than fucking smoking hot badass bombshell, Miss Romanoff.
Well, I don't think they were trying to pimp out Black Widow, because that's kind of...
No, definitely not. Like, I don't know. I believed it was a natural, somewhat romance, didn't you?
Well, that's what I mean. I don't feel like anybody who says it is kind of... You could say that about any sort of romance in superhero movies, realistically. Mm-hmm. But, because, I mean, not a lot of them last long, unless you look at certain tiny ones, but...
Yeah.
Anyways,
fine.
I don't know. I thought it was well done the way that they did it. I thought the reason that they had that connection was well thought out. Like the fact that she considered herself a monster. Mm. And obviously, he was kind of like the opposite. Ocean was just kind of like the girl who, has been with so many bad guys, but finally wants to try and get a good guy. Mm-hmm. Even though he's, a giant green rage monster.
Even though you flip a coin and he's the worst guy, right?
Mm.
I thought it made great sense. And, even their inability to, bang, if you will, made sense too, right? Like,
and I heard a lot of people said too that they found it offensive that they felt the need to give that to Black Widow just to kind of include her more. Well, I thought she had a couple badass scenes. Like, she's the one that rides the thing with what is it called, the cradle with Vision in it.
Yeah, and
she's the one that rides
it out of the back of the flying truck.
She's the one that drops out of the plane with the frickin' motorcycle onto the highway.
She was pregnant while she filmed all this shit, by the way.
Oh shit, really?
Yeah. I don't know how they did it.
Like, she's got I don't know, man. Like, she's
got a bunch of
badass scenes in it. So.
And same with the Winter Soldier. I think she almost stole that movie too. She had a lot of great scenes in that. I don't think Black Widow is shoehorned into make sure you have a female character. Nah, she feels like she stands on her own. I'd happily see a Black Widow movie that was just about her origin or what have you, because I think it's good enough. Like, it definitely could easily hold up to these other stories. So,
Definitely agree.
yeah, I guess we could touch on the other two new members of the cast, Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver.
Well, Quicksilver's dead.
Yeah, well, spoiler alert, Quicksilver ain't so quick at the end. But those of you who, know your comics may remember Quicksilver from last year's Days of Future Past. Yeah, Days of Future Past. And this same character, just done differently. Not the same character, but, same source material. And that might bug a few people, but you're really gonna mind.
They both did a good job in different perspectives
so, yeah.
of Quicksilver.
I thought so, too. They both have a different feel, and I think the Days of Future Past one works, and I think this one works here as well.
Well, they're clearly based off of different writers' takes on Quicksilver. I mean, that's the same thing that happened in the comic books.
Oh,
definitely. There's different styles of the way his mannerisms are, his dialogue, things like that. So I don't have a problem with it.
Neither do I. And people
what's his name?
Complain, but
Kick-Ass?
Yeah, Aaron Taylor Johnson plays.
I always get it wrong. I always say Taylor, Aaron Johnson, or something like that. So
fun fact: the other guy who played Quicksilver was in Kick-Ass with him. Small world. Now.
The first Kick-Ass, yeah, he was.
Yeah. I think he does a good job here, and that might be part of the reason why they had the. I don't know. They feel obligated to kill one character off every Avengers. It seems they got rid of Olsen the first time around.
Coulson, yeah.
Coulson, not Olsen, sorry. They kind of got rid of him, whether or not you give a shit about S.H.I.E.L.D. or Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And they killed off Quicksilver this time around. We said spoiler alert, so come on. And they might have been the reason is to minimize confusion. Yes, minimize confusion with the X-Men series, because they're not even allowed to call them mutants this time around. They're called Enhanced. Enhanced on the field. Enhance. And another, I don't know, I had a friend who was bitching the other day about how Fantastic Four should be in the MCU and all this stuff. I'm like, it's all legal. That's all it is. It's all legal that your dreams will never come true. And Fox owns Marvel. That's why Fox owns X-Men rights. Sorry. So that's why they can't say mutant. You'll never see Magneto, Wolverine, all that kind of stuff. What are you going to do?
Which kind of sucks, especially if they're going to do new Avengers or Secret Avengers. Well,
especially if they're going to use, various members of the X-Men in different ways, like Quicksilver. Yeah. I'm not sure where Scarlet Witch hails from, but is she an X-Men character originally?
Oh yeah. Well, I don't know. I don't know if she actually is originally from X-Men or if she's originally from Avengers / West Coast Avengers, because I know she played a big role in both of those series. Same with Quicksilver. He's like off again, I think, in Avengers, really. But I don't really know where I was going with that.
No worries. Yeah, they're the two, the newest members of the Avengers.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's what I wanted to say. Elizabeth Olsen does a fantastic job
as the Scarlet Witch. I meant to say that too. I like Elizabeth Olsen a lot. I think she's a good actress, and she brings some hype to this role, and she's appropriately. I felt her anger, when Quicksilver dies and she just goes ballistic. I thought that she did great in that scene.
I liked the little mannerisms, like with her hand movements and everything.
I thought they
did a good job of acting out the crazy.
Yeah, definitely. They
did a good job making the crazy version of Scarlet Witch, so that's good.
I mean, and I also thought they visualized, her she uses telekinesis to cause visions of what people fear most, and they visualized that really well. I thought, even with the that alien worm thing behind.
I thought
Tony
that one was awesome.
Yeah,
the Iron Man one was awesome.
Yeah, I thought all the visions were cool, even though some people might not get all the references in them. But it was wicked, yeah.
I do like the setup, because that's the thing. This whole film is almost like that's where I feel like it was almost like a waste of how they use Ultron, is because the whole thing is a setup for Infinity Wars as well as Civil War as well as Ragnarok is what it seems.
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost like it's just a placeholder until we get to these films that you're actually going to see anything substantial happen. So here's a villain in the meantime.
Yep.
Have a nice day.
That's kind of what they feel like, and that's kind of what a lot of the in-between movies of the.
That's right. I almost, as a comic book fan or enthusiast or whatever you want to call it, I mean, I almost kind of hate myself just for the fact that I enjoy the film so much, even though they do have them that little. James Spader just took it away for me. But and I thought Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver were both done extremely well. But that's to me is always going to be the nagging problem with some of these and their whole theory of how they do these phases for the MCU is just the way they kind of stall it out. I do think it's funny though that it seems DC Universe is almost trying to emulate that about 7 or 8 years too late with a bunch of terrible ideas. Yeah. So I don't understand.
With the introduction of the Justice League.
Is what it is.
Yep. It is what it is, DC. I don't think you're making the right moves, but hey, that's just my opinion. I think Marvel is continuing to make the right moves, and they're making more of them than ever. Is there any other characters? I guess we forgot about Jarvis, or Paul Bettany as the Vision, a.k.a. Jarvis.
Oh, yeah.
What did you think about him? He wasn't in a whole lot of it.
Yeah, no, he really wasn't. I did think he did a decent enough job. I mean, the Vision's supposed to be basically a cyborg, right? So,
I thought he did.
Realistically, he does a good job of being, very.
I think it's a cool way.
Stiff.
It's a very cool way to evolve. I don't know if this is how he comes about in the comics or not, but having Jarvis basically become his voice, right? I thought that was a cool way to, honor the character of Jarvis, which we all enjoyed. There's one of my favorite parts from the first Iron Man, and like the first couple Iron Man movies is the Jarvis system. I don't know why, but I think he's a cool AI guy.
And, I thought so too.
To use his likeness and his voice on the Vision, which is a totally different character, is a cool way to do that. So I like him. I just wish he was in more of it. That's all.
Me too, and especially the fact that I thought it was unique that they put it in the fact that he carried Elizabeth Olsen's character Scarlet Witch out of the church as it starts to crumble or whatnot. Mm-hmm. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe in some of the Avengers comic book series they actually have some sort of relationship along later on down the line. But so it'll be interesting if they go down that path. I don't know what they're going to do. The only thing I don't understand is I don't understand why they killed Pietro. And I was reading an interesting thing online where it was talking about how they've essentially killed off the best villains that they have. I mean, when you think about it, it's kind of true. Like Ultron, you could always bring him back saying, he somehow escaped into this remote signal or whatever.
Ultron could come back.
Yeah, you could always say that. And the same with Red Skull, really.
No one knows where Red Skull
They seem to just kill everybody.
Yeah, for the most part, it's every bad shield.
And that's how Ultron says that. He says you're all killers.
Yeah, which is good. Yeah, and I like that a lot. That they're addressing the things that have happened in the past MCU, and I don't mean like story point wise. I mean the fact that every time the Avengers come around and they need to do their job, shit gets destroyed and people die, and I think that's going to be a primary factor in Civil War.
Well, it is. and that's literally a primary factor.
Oh, of course. Well, quite obviously, yes, but I think that's a cool direction to go. That yes, all this shit can blow up fantastically, better than Michael Bay could ever dream of, but you can still address, hey, you guys are fucking up, and you have ridiculous power, and it needs to be controlled somehow. And, various conflicts that can come about with that. It's, I like the fact that the Avengers at least try to rescue people, They at least, try their best to evacuate that city at the ending battle. That's the difference. That's what I hate about Man of Steel, is that Superman doesn't even fucking try. The only person he rescues is Lois Lane. And that's it. Doesn't even rescue his dad. But in
I'm out.
Yeah, pretty much, right? But in this, it has, pretty crazy levels of destruction, but at least they try. They're at least still trying to be a force for good and justice and all that crap. And
That's where the writing comes into play, where I'm kind of wondering.
Yeah.
I'm hopeful, but wondering what's going to happen in the future. Just because, as far as my understanding goes, Joss Whedon is completely severed his ties with Marvel. So I don't know how it's going to work.
He's supposedly done for good and off to do.
Unless it's already written, I have no idea.
It could be. Who knows?
It very well could be.
Yeah, it's that's what I for those of you who don't know, the Russos, the guys who directed The Winter Soldier, they have been elected to fill in for Joss Whedon on Infinity Wars 1 and 2. They've landed the gig. They're currently filming Civil War, which we just mentioned right now, which is going to be hopefully great. I don't see why it wouldn't be. But I don't, do you think they have the humor and character skills, if you will, of Joss Whedon? I want him to write it too, man. I really do.
I feel like there's a chance you could kind of hire people on that would maybe do a decent enough job, maybe even hire some comic book writers who are familiar with the franchise and the series, but I don't know. It's hard to say, really, just because aside from that and Yumi and Dupree, I'm not too familiar. Not that. Aside from Captain America: The Winter Soldier and Yumi and Dupree, I'm not too familiar with their work. And if we're talking the comedic value of it, Yumi and Dupree was a giant pile of shit. So I don't think that they would be. I don't think they'd be transferring from that there.
Thank God they got a job directing comic book movies, man.
Oh yeah, Winter Soldier was absolutely amazing.
Winter Soldier was great.
And Dupree was just awful.
Yeah, for those of you, these guys' previous film before Winter Soldier, besides Welcome to Collinwood, which some of you may have heard of, was Yumi and Dupree, that god-awful piece of crap with Owen Wilson in it. And I do not like Owen Wilson. But yeah, they've clearly stepped up their game, and there is a lot of humor in The Winter Soldier. So, not quite Joss's level, though. That's what I worry about, is that he does banter between characters so well, and I just really hope they're able to capture that again.
There is a bit of that in The Winter Soldier that I think was done well, but there's also a lot of it that I thought was done quite poorly at the same time. So
what they did do great was action.
Oh yeah, that'll be top notch.
Exactly, and Joss, though he relies a lot on CGI this time, he still proves himself as a great action director. Man, the way he visualizes everything, you can see punches. You can see the way these punches hit, and the way the team works together, like the fucking Harlem Globetrotters, to take down their enemies. Because the teamwork stuff is great. So I don't think they'll have any problems with that in the next one. I just hope they keep his knack for character development, man.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it goes. That's for sure. But considering, I guess we kind of started out this thinking we were actually just going to talk about the Age of Ultron itself.
Yeah.
I mean, realistically, the only thing you can really say about it is, it's a great film. It's definitely not the original, but it's definitely better than a lot of the other ones. Especially if you've been disappointed with some of the recent ones that have came out, aside from Captain America: Winter Soldier. Because if you're disappointed with that, then just don't watch anymore. You don't deserve it.
Not your film, man. Yeah, I agree. I think this is definitely stands amongst the top, above the previous Thor and Iron Man movies, except for the first one. First one's great. Yeah, I guess we should stop judging it on the whole compared to the MCU, but that's kind of problematic with these movies, right? They're so ingrained with the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Well, and like I said, this one honestly feels that it's almost set up and works as a placeholder for what's about to come next. So you can only really kind of look at it in the context of what it is setting up and how it's going to play out from there, because this thing's all about just streaming off, right? Nothing about this is kind of, enclosed in the one film. It's all about what the other ones are going to do.
Exactly.
There seems to be the only central plot of this film, that's it's got to happen in this film, is the fact that Ultron's going to raise a big rock and smash it into the earth and kill everybody.
Mm-hmm. And he's going to do that real good. And the rest is set up for other stuff.
Yeah, they don't really pay too much attention to that fact. They pay a lot more attention to setting up the other stuff.
Mm-hmm. Which, yeah, that's why we compared it to the rest of them. They have to set up other stuff, you know. It's, they have a lot of films planned. They have Black Panther is coming, Doctor Strange is coming, Captain Marvel.
Both those.
Yeah. And even into the future, they're planning all the way to, like, Inhumans, I think, is the last one they have planned.
Yeah, Inhumans.
Inhumans, as well as Captain Marvel and Guardians 2, of course, which I think Guardians 2 will be great, but that's kind of like its own offshoot of the Marvel universe, but it still connects via the Infinity Stones and Thanos and all that stuff. It's cool. I'm down, but I guess let's judge it as a movie by itself. Age of Ultron. What would you give it?
Well, considering I would give the Avengers a 10 out of 10, I think I'm gonna have to.
I'd give it a.
I think I have to drop it at least. I almost want to say a 1.5. I think I might give it an 8.5.
8.5. Yeah. I was gonna give it a 9, and that's because again I would say the Avengers first one is a 10, or at the very least a 9.5 if you want to be a nitpicking bastard. But the first one's fucking awesome. And this one, just a little bit under. I think certain things were way better, i.e. Ultron, and i.e. some of the set pieces and action and stuff. And some things were worse, where, you know, Russian plot points and shoehorned in characters a little bit, not enough to make it bad. But yeah, I'd give it a 9 out of 10. Great summer film, just not, you know, nothing will top the Avengers, I guess, is what we're trying to say.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to say about Marvel's The Avengers, Age of Ultron?
No matter what, if you enjoy comic book movies, if you enjoy comic books in general, it's a great film to see.
That's the
You
bottom
definitely
line,
gonna have
really.
to see it.
Yeah, that's the bottom line is, though we sit here and nitpick, it's if you enjoy the Marvel films, especially the first Avengers, there's nothing not to like here. And you probably have already seen it, but if you haven't, go see that shit. It's very good. It's definitely one of the highlights of the summer so far. Though there's a film out called Mad Max, which is quite spectacular for other reasons. That review will be coming up after this one, I think. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys, while we ramble about the MCU and Age of Ultron and all things Marvel. If you like what you see, give us a like or leave us a comment down below. And of course, subscribe if you dig what we do. And we'll see you next time on Movieverse.